Hey everybody, it's Josh. I'm going to do a video today and see if the bugs would get me too bad. I really wanted to try a live stream again. The first time I tried it, I kept getting calls and it just took down my stream after 10 minutes. So, and my buddy TJ over at TJ Tells the Truth, he has been doing live streams and he is in his element in that. If you guys, he reposts them. You guys go check him out. It's really a really good video. But I wanted to talk today first about how there is a great shift in the world. And how when there is a great shift, when there seems to be a great evil coming through, then God shows up to awaken his warriors of peace, his servants. Now, the last time this happened in a larger scale, obviously it's always happening in some form, in some part of the world. But I'm talking about in America. The last time that I saw that it happened was the Jesus Revolution in the 60s. Now, obviously the hippie movement was a big, they were taking acid and, it was constantly just worshiping drugs because they thought they were finding God. They thought they were finding the truth in the drugs, because that's what psychedelics will do to you. Psychedelics, they got me just enslaved and captivated. Or captivated, not incaptivated. They got me enslaved because I saw something I had been searching for my entire life before that. And it really had me searching for my entire life since that day, but eventually the drugs turned on me. Now, when I tried it for the first time, I saw an entire spiritual world open up. One that I sensed was there the whole time, but I just couldn't, it was like everything else. It was kind of like, yeah, I believed in God and I believed in Jesus and I'd felt their presence, but they gave me no direction. And this was for a reason. They didn't give me direction, and I thought, well, they're just trying to get me to come to them. So I did everything I could. Wasn't getting anywhere through places like church because it just didn't speak to me. I didn't relate to my experiences, and nobody seemed to relate to my experiences at church. I felt like an outsider. Not that they weren't welcoming, but I couldn't be myself. I couldn't open up about my they were usually pretty strange spiritual thoughts. But then I started listening to, classic rock where, the music from the hippie age, and especially bands like The Doors and the Grateful Dead and everything. It was speaking to an experience that was just exactly what I was searching for, or at least the way they described it. They were saying it was how they met God. They were saying they learned the truth about the world through these psychedelic experiences. So, I was kind of a coward, didn't really take it until after high school. Even though a lot of my friends were doing it in high school, I was, I'd smoked pot and everything and drank, but a little too much, a lot too much. I just built a party reputation as just trying to be the life of the party because I was trying to always impress somebody else. Never trying to understand myself and love myself, just trying to gain love through different identities. If I had to be the party clown, then that's what I would be. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed it. I had so much fun. I loved being the life of the party. I loved making people laugh. I loved making people smile. But then I believe I was 18 or 19. I was probably 19. And I finally tried LSD. And it was the most transformative experience I'd had that I could have imagined. And I was seeing things exactly like they told me. Like a new world was opening up. Like this false, phony world that we're seeing in front of us was just kind of melting away. And the new world was opening up. And we couldn't see it completely, but we could get a glimpse of it. And that's all I needed. And of course I became obsessed with it. And of course I just had to try to go down that rabbit hole. And it led to nothing but chaos. I thought I would find God there, and I kept looking. I was like, if I just go a little deeper, I will find God. And it led me straight into the depths of hell. The depths of hell are, Christ says that hell is being separated from God. I felt about as far away from God as you could feel. I felt not in the very beginning. In the very beginning, I was like, wow, this is where God lives. This is God. But after a little bit, it just wore on my soul. It wore away so much that my soul was just, it felt like there was nothing left of it. I felt hopeless. I felt pure desperation and depression I'd felt it before, but not like this. This amplified every bad emotion that I had. None of the good emotions, unless you were, peaking on the drug or something. But it was first days and then weeks and then months without any hope. And let me tell you, without hope, we can't live for very long. As a people, we need hope, we need love, and we need purpose. And I was devoid of all three of these things. But in the 60s, people were going through the same exact thing. People were fed this false promise of the drugs will lead me to the truth. They were on a truth quest. And what did it do? It didn't lead them to anything but this nightmarish world of despair. I'm telling you, I don't know how any of you watching have ever done it. You know what I'm talking about maybe. Hopefully you didn't do it as much as I did. I'm sure you probably didn't. But that hopelessness is where the devil wants you. And then once the devil has you enslaved, he doesn't really, he just hammers you deeper into hell. So I thought that I had some kind of purpose in life, and there was false purpose, and then he would yank it away from me every single time. And talked to a biker there. He was asking if we could get through, and I'm in a place, I've talked about it before, but I think of it as sort of the gates of hell. Christ took his disciples to this place where they called it the gates of hell, or gates of Hades, or it had a bunch of different names, but it was just this place where Jews did not want to go because they thought it was a place of the devil. It's where a lot of the Romans used to dump the dead bodies, and it used to be a roaring river coming out of like a mouth of a cave, and it just terrified the disciples. But Christ said that we are here because we are beating death. We are rising above death. None of this matters to us anymore. And I think that was the point where Christ was talking about leading people. Sometimes when you're a Christian, a lot of times as Christians, especially born again Christians, okay, so the prodigal sons, the people who have been lost and strayed in life, who just felt like their lives were cursed, and then Christ found them, or they found Christ. Christ is always there, so they opened their eyes finally. We are thrust into the depths of hell. But that's where we're prepared to be. That was the reason for all of our suffering our entire lives. God showed me this clearly. It's one of the first things he showed me, and he made clear to me after I was saved. He told me that all of my suffering was for this reason, so that I would be inoculated to the fires of hell. And why? Because I was being prepared to do what I'm trying to start doing now, which is find the lost souls, find the broken souls who have maybe given up or are still wandering around aimlessly in hell, being the man with a lantern, offering them a smile, a warm smile and a hand, and leading them out of that place. You know, I've kind of referenced or compared myself to a sort of a park ranger who, you know, let's say you have just the craziest terrain where there's predators everywhere. If some ranger is not trained for that terrain and those predators, then they're going to be in danger themselves. They're not going to be a help to anyone. So I had to learn this. I had to learn all about the dangers that lie ahead in hell to get there. I know this is a little sidebar from what I was talking about, but it reminded me because this place that I'm at, it's right near a little beach on the river that used to be a mill. They blew up the mill, and you know, they did a planned detonation of it, but they blew that up, and now people go and swim there because there's a nice beach there and everything. Over the past, I would say 2.5 months, I think 3 people have died here. 3 people have drowned in separate times, and then a couple more got swept away and actually were saved. And I know I've heard of people dying here constantly since I moved here. You know, it's always been a dangerous place, even when the dam was still there. But there are dark places in the world, and there are holy places in the world. The place where I was saved is the holiest place I know. If I need to talk to God and I'm not sensing him in my life, which I usually do all the time, but if I am having an existential crisis, or I'm having some sort of crazy problem and I don't know what to do, I don't know how to help certain people, I will go to my holy spot because I know God is there and God is closest to me there. It doesn't mean that God's not with me anywhere else just as much. It just means I can sense him more there. It is a place where he can connect with me on a deeper spiritual level. I don't know why. I don't know what the significance of these certain places are, but I know that it's true. I've gotten dozens of signs there, dozens of profound signs, and even more, probably hundreds of smaller signs. Even times I've been there when I think, oh, well, this isn't some grand sign. It's always something he's showing me there. But a place like here, I don't feel uneasy. I don't feel like it is dangerous. I don't feel like it is an evil place, because God, Christ told us that these places are not something to be afraid of anymore. I'm not afraid of places that are haunted. I'm not afraid of places that are supposedly full of evil spirits. I feel my faith is strong enough now to stand up to all that. I really do. Now, there could be something else. The exorcists and the real exorcists say, the priests say, that 99.9% of the people they go and investigate to have demons don't have real life demons. They're just some kind of mental illness or something else going on. But that 0.1%, it's real. And if you aren't strong in your faith, there could be places like the gates of hell near you. Places that just have this evilness around it. And until you are firm and strong and deep in your faith, I would just avoid those places. Whether it's true or not that it's an evil place, I would avoid them. Why open yourself up to spiritual attacks when you're not ready for them yet? When you're still seeking, for instance. But anyway, the people in the 60s were seeking. They were seeking to find the truth. And what did they find? They found nothing but chaos and darkness. And they were lost in it. And so there was a huge movement. They called them the Jesus freaks, where some of the hippies were, one of the hippies in particular, a guy named, I think his name was Lonnie Frisbee. He came to this, he was in San Francisco, and he came to this old preacher's house who didn't like the hippies. And actually his daughter brought the hippie Lonnie Frisbee there to it was her dad, was the preacher. She brought Lonnie to his house, and he had said, I guess before he had said, if God wants me to understand the hippies, then he'll bring one to my doorstep. And then, of course, she brought one right to his doorstep. And they just had an amazing revival. And it was an incredible revival. They were baptizing people by the thousands. And not only just in San Francisco, in Pirate Bay there, I guess is where they were baptizing them. It spread like wildfire. There's a movie, The Jesus Revolution, and they talk about how the guy was doing an article on these people, and it was, they're still around today. I can't remember the guy's name who was the other main character, the younger kid, but he is an amazing preacher today. And I wish that I knew his name off the top of my head, but I don't remember it. Because I have the memory of a goldfish. Probably because of all the stupid drugs I did. Right? Don't do drugs, kids. It reminds me of that the Water Boy where Bobby Boucher is talking to the youth football team, and he's just rambling on. You know how, if you've ever seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I think it was Lawrence Taylor there, with him, and he's like, and that leads me to another point, kids, don't do drugs. But anyway, so the Jesus Revolution was the last time I remember, or not that I remember, but I saw that there was a great revival, a great awakening, where God was calling all his servants because it was getting too evil in this country. And then, when did people start waking up the last time? In numbers I had never seen before, and in such a different way than when the Jesus Revolution. But it started in 2020. About right before 2020 was when God started slowly awakening me. And I go through and I have to read some of my old writings to remember my mindset during that time. And it was just incredible to see the change throughout the time. I was lost, and I had given up most of my hope, but yet God was still lifting me up. And one of the ways he did this was about 2017. I was walking, I kicked over this big, piece of quartz stone, and there was a big, beautiful garnet on it. It wasn't even really that big, but it was it looked like a ruby shining there. And that got me, kind of just obsessed with finding gems and minerals. But it had a deeper meaning too, and I've gone through this before too, a bunch of times. The garnet, it's a symbol of the blood of Christ, the sacrifice of Christ, the salvation. But it also was there was, I think of the Talbot, it's the Jewish, it's kind of like the extras of the Bible, I guess. Kind of like the Jewish mythology that went along with the Bible, like kind of told a little extra of some of the stories. And they said that Noah, there was two different things. They said that Noah wore a garnet around his neck in one of the stories that I heard. And one of the other stories was in the Bible, it says there was I think a 4x4 foot little window in there. And they put a garnet right in the middle of there. And in both stories, the garnet illuminated the entire ark. This one little garnet. It was like a supernatural type thing. It illuminated the whole thing. And it also guided Noah to where he needed to go. So eventually when he set off the doves and they didn't come back, that he could find the land. But that was, for me, my guiding moment. God was guiding me out into the woods, and it was just incredible. By 2020, when the pandemic was here, I was outside almost every day. I made a New Year's resolution in 2021 to be outside every day. And I kept that up through this day. I'm still outside every single day, at least for a couple minutes. But this was it was a shift for all of us. There is such an evil in this world, And we are finally waking up to it. You know, the whole, you know, sickness thing. I'm not even sure if I can still say this stuff on YouTube. So I'm going to not try to talk about the actual thing too much. But you all know what got everybody sick. It was not natural. They were like mad scientists in the lab there in Wuhan. And unfortunately, a lot of people that we had leading us during the time, a little guy named Fauci, he had his crooked little fingers in that. Gain of function. Gain of function means they were building this to be extra bad, extra contagious, and extra strong. And it's evil. It's pure evil. We're having these long-term effects from it, and the media just covered up for them all. And then, of course, you had the things with the needles coming out. And how many people did they talk into that? And it was just disgusting. And it's not one side or another either. There was both sides were influenced by this because they put everyone in fear. Both sides of the political spectrum, I mean. You know, I thank God that me and my wife, we held out and we're going to listen for the stories before we actually got it ourselves. And we ended up not getting it, thankfully. Unfortunately, both my parents did, and both of them got... My dad started having chest pains, which led to a major open heart surgery immediately after he got it. My mom, she had all kinds of crazy autoimmune diseases. Her legs were swollen for months, and then eventually she had a stroke, and that paralyzed her. Now, if I was to bring this up at the time, I would have been censored. A poor woman had her child taking this stuff, taking the supposed treatment, or not treatment, the supposed vaccine. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that anymore, sadly. Her daughter is now on a feeding tube, all kinds of problems. She was still pro-vaccine, but she wanted to tell the story to say, hey, look, there are some side effects in certain situations at least. And the media attacked her. The social media censored her. People came at her like she was the new rising of Adolf. You know, like, I mean, it was insane, the evil that's happening. But, you know, our country has already been so evil for so long. And, you know, we just all of us, and I'm guilty of it too, we sit here fat and happy, and as long as we're getting the ultra-processed foods and, you know, have our sports and our entertainment and all that stuff, we shut the hell up about it. Because this phone that I'm on right now was made by slaves. The phone you're on, the laptop you're on, every piece of electronics, most likely made by slaves. Not to mention how many unborn babies are taken from us every year. How many? I read in New York, it was over half of them. Over half of the black babies were just terminated. This is unborn babies. That is exactly why Planned Parenthood came to be in existence in the first place. Go look up Margaret Sanger and go look up how evil and racist she was. Adolf in Germany, he actually admired Margaret Sanger. And it is so disgusting to see how some people in this country worship her in that place. You see, when I start talking about these things, that they send the helicopters after me, right? I don't usually talk about these things, but I think it has to be mentioned, and it has to be talked about more and more. You know, it's definitely not what I'm focused on, because there's nothing that... We have to stand up to stuff like this. I'm sure that you know, even if you support these types of things, that it is truly evil to take a baby who is, especially, and they say that this is another thing the media lies about. They say it doesn't happen, but at the 8-9 month mark, when the baby is viable, they still are fighting to terminate that baby for no medical reason. Because there's almost never a medical reason at that point. There's almost never a medical reason at any point. But they will lie and say things like, babies who, miscarriages are the same thing as the, what I'm talking about. Which I'm seriously already said way too much stuff that might get me a strike on YouTube. I don't know. And I'm not going to say I don't care, because I want to be able to talk to you all. But it's sickening that I have to tap dance around these things. It's exactly what they want. But it's just pure evil. It really is. All right, I'm going to get off of here, and I'm going to try to do a little live stream after all this. Don't know how it's going to go, but we will see. If it doesn't work out, then I'll try again, all right? I love you all. We'll talk to you soon.